Hey, welcome back. I'm Darren. I'm at Modern Auto in Tyngsboro, Mass, and I've got the keys to this fantastic Valencia Orange BMW Z4. Okay, so I know that the conversation around the BMW Z4 has sort of just been centered around the whole weird Toyota BMW partnership thing going on with the new Z4 and the Supra. You know, we have the G29 Z4 and the J29 Supra, and there's a lot of discussion back and forth about whether or not these are legitimate Toyotas and genuine BMWs. And you know what? Everything that needs to be said about those cars has already been said. I think I don't want to sound like a broken record, so let's just take a look at this Z4, because this Z4 is the quintessential German roadster. Okay, so quick rundown here. I've got some of the specs laid out, but the last generation Z4, this E89 Z4, ran from about 2009 to about 2016. This is a 2015 in Valencia Orange. As we can obviously tell, this is a gorgeous color, by the way. This, in way too many words, is an sDrive35is, which is saying this has the N54 inline-6 twin turbocharged as well. And this one does have the 7-speed Getrag, the dual clutch transmission, so it is an absolute blast to drive. So much to love about this overall package, from the color to the powertrain and so much more. I think that as far as these kinds of cars go, this is just one of the most ideal form factors you can get for driving engagement, driving fun. 6-cylinder, twin turbo, dual clutch, small, 2-seater, roadster, hardtop convertible. The list goes on. So why don't we just go ahead, get inside the car, and enjoy it, because this is one heck of a fun drive. Oh, you can already hear that N54 in there. What a sound. If you could feel it too, you've just got this very low vibration in the entire chassis as the engine is just sort of ticking away under there. And you already know, there's just so much more to this car than meets the eye. And there's already a lot meeting the eye. This is really a stunning package. So as you can see, the car is already warm. Let's go ahead and give it a quick rev before we head out. I think you're going to love this sound. Oh, yeah. This is going to be a fun one. I guarantee it. Okay, so real talk here for a second. Is there anything about this car that we can fault at all? Like, that's a genuine question I'm asking you, because let's think about this for a second. In this day and age, it's very difficult to find this kind of package. Even, that was loud, even if we look at the J29 Supra and the G29 Z4, this specific kind of packaging does not really exist anymore. The Z4 has gotten a lot larger, and its characteristics have changed a lot. And likewise, the Supra, despite being based on the same platform, is a very different kind of car to drive. This package, this small 2-seat roadster, with a large engine up front, rear-wheel drive, in this case a dual clutch, but also manual transmissions and whatnot, they don't really exist anymore. You have a couple examples. You have the Miata, which is, I think, one of the mainstays in this segment, like the Z4 has been. The 124 which is pretty much just a Miata, although the engine is really nice in that. And I think maybe BMW would have you compare this to the 718 as well, but I think they stand in very different places. So really, what else is there like this in the market? And if we look at this particular package, this E89 Z4, this twin turbo 6-cylinder up front, the 7-speed Getrag dual clutch, this really compact and nimble form factor that you're still connected to the road in. You don't have like electronic power steering and all that stuff. This car still gives you a sense of presence on the road. It tells you what the wheels are doing, what the car is doing. It communicates with you. And I think that is just such a lost art in cars today, and this captures it so well. Even yes, this 2015, it's not that far back in the past, but there's just something about this older design that seems to capture the element, the essence of driving that you really just don't get very much anymore. Now, I know many people will argue that this package may be incomplete without the manual transmission, but I would challenge them to try the dual clutch. It's seriously quick, and the level of communication it has with you as a driver does not leave you wanting anything, in my humble opinion. I do really genuinely enjoy manual transmissions, and I grew up in an era where the Z3 and the Z4 was readily available with naturally aspirated 6 cylinders, very pared down packages, very little technology, and a manual transmission. And it's not really the kind of thing you can find in the Z4 anymore, but even so, even with that, I think this is really just a blast to drive. And in many ways, I think it harkens back to a bygone era. If you experience cars from the 90s, if you experience cars from the 2000s, there's a very defining aspect about all of them. And it's that while they do have amenities, while they do have technologies, modern conveniences, their driving style, the way they drive, the way they handle, the way they communicate with the driver is still very traditional. And so once you get past stuff like a traction program or stability program, you can turn that off, and you just drive the car, it really feels like you're transported back in that time. And yet, even with that, you still have modern amenities in a car like the E89. And I think that's part of what makes it so perfect. And I hate to use that word. But as these cars sort of die off, as the whole segment sort of dwindles and fades into obscurity, I think finding perfection, you have to take it for what it is, relative to what else exists in the market. And I think that this car is the perfect example of what driving fun can be like in the modern world without having to give up your amenities. Now, you may be looking at this dashboard and saying, what the heck am I talking about, right? But get this, you actually do have amenities. Let's take a look at this real quick. I don't know if I can actually bring this thing up, so let's see. We have the Idrive System right here. Press the menu, and look at that. Suddenly you have iDrive with all your modern conveniences. I can bring up my navigation screen, and so I'm driving along, enjoying grand touring or carving up mountain roads, and yet I still have a navigation system built in, a nice sound system built in. I do have traction and stability for when I just want to drive the car and not, get knocked back in my seat or wrapped around a tree. So it is there. But like these classic, like these traditional cars from the 90s and 2000s eras, it allows you to just set that all in the background. Look at this. I just press Option, turn off this display, and I might as well be in like a 2004 Z4. It's really that simple. And it's such a joy to drive. Other things too, just like how it feels when you're sitting inside the cockpit, your view of the road, what's behind you, your steering position, your seating position, your pedal position, all these minor things that we take for granted in a lot of cars. It's just fine-tuned so well in this car. And for the kind of buyer that's looking for these kinds of roadsters. The E89, I think, is really some of the pinnacle, one of the pinnacles of this form factor. I'm getting this car back into the city limits now. We're hitting potholes and manhole covers, and we're driving it around in, slower traffic, having to, get off the gas a little bit, on the gas. Its dynamics around town are very well-mannered too, and that's something you just don't see with a lot of today's contemporary sports cars. It's, when you get in a fast car nowadays, it's always go fast. They're very difficult to drive slow. When you get in a traditional sports car, it's not as forgiving either, because you have to focus on a lot of things. With this car, this late 2000s, early 2010s sports car, I think it does a phenomenal job of balancing that driver engagement with the convenience of modern technologies and modern driving. And let's face it, for a lot of people driving these types of cars, it's okay that they are missing on some of the raw feeling of a traditional classic sports muscle or supercar. They're looking for a compact, fun, grand touring experience, and if you really do want the engagement, there's always the manual transmissions on tap. This one with the dual clutch doesn't really make me miss the manual at all, so take it for what it is. I think it's a very fun drive, and I think it's an experience that's well worth having if you are able to. This is a relatively accessible car for a lot of enthusiasts. The Z4 in general has been around for such a long time that whether or not you get this E89 or the current G29 or even past generations, it's more affordable, more attainable, and more achievable, I think, than a lot of other competitors in the market that have blown out of proportion. If we look at cars like Porsche and the Boxster, the Caymans, the 911s, the Carreras, they're just so outrageously expensive, whether it's used, whether it's new. This car isn't quite there yet. I think it still flies under the radar for a lot of drivers, and I think that it's mostly because of the competition that does exist targets a very specific audience, and I think that BMW, their niche is a little bit more less defined. There's a contradiction there. A little bit less defined, because you have the luxury buyers that want a comfortable grand touring car, but this is a small car, and so you also have the sport-oriented buyers. But at the end of the day, I think that regardless of where you sort of slot in on the spectrum, whether you're a Miata driver or a 911 driver, I think that wherever you lie on that spectrum, you get inside a car like this, and it's just pure driving fun. The experience is different enough from something like a Miata 124 and like a Carrera or a Boxster that you can still enjoy it and take it as something unique. And, it's honestly kind of sad that there aren't more cars like this. We used to see it a lot with the British Roadsters especially, but a lot of them have gone. The brands no longer exist, or they've been absorbed and folded into other things. So yes, this Z4, this E89 Z4, this fantastic little roadster, I think is just such a joy to drive. And I'm so happy that I got to spend some time with it. Even though it is not my car, I genuinely enjoyed spending time with it. So huge thanks to Modern Auto in Tyngsboro, Mass. For handing me the keys and trusting me with this Valencia orange. I can't get over this color. Valencia orange Z4 sDrive35is, that gorgeous inline-6 twin turbocharged with a 7-speed dual clutch. I know this was a pretty brief driving video, but I do hope you genuinely enjoyed it. I don't have that much time with the car, so I am going to bring it back now. But if you do like what you see, go ahead and like, subscribe. Go ahead and leave a comment if you enjoyed this car too. Tell me what you think of the E89 Z4, or if you want to continue the conversation on the brand new Supra and the brand new Z4, I'm always happy to discuss cars as well. Until next time, folks, take care. Ciao.